Next up, we have Nihar Kulkarni on Transitions, the Emergence of the Full Service Agency from Roswell, NYC.
I promise this isn't vodka. It's a little too early for that, but it's kind of nice. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate that. I want to shout out the sponsors today. Of course, Mantle, Cleverific, Gadget, and everybody else that you see on the boards here. Thank you for bombarding my inbox every day for channel mapping and cross client mapping. Appreciate that. But all jokes aside, you guys are really what makes this industry tick. But hands in the air if you are a tech platform. All right, great. And hands in the air if you're a brand. Not many, to be expected. And hands in the air if you're an agency. All right, so now agencies, now you know what it feels like to be at a brand at Shop Talk, because you are definitely the belle of the ball. So I wanted to start today. Blair and I go way back, just like Roddy over here, who's one of the best in the partnerships game. I got to shout him out for that. We were talking about what I was going to, kind of educate and talk about my experience in e-commerce and what we built over at Roswell NYC, and it's the emergence of the full service agency. Why is that important? I wanted to be able to talk about that with you today. We have Jess Grossman over here, who's done the same with her fantastic agency and her number two right here, Hira. I also want to shout out James Roberts, our head of business development and strategy here. Couldn't do any of the things I'm going to talk about at Roswell without him. So the emergence of the full service agency. There we go. An important concept to understand is that when you're a full service agency, you're not just doing dev. You're not just doing UI UX design. You're not just doing email. You're not just doing paid, or whatever the case may be. You're in the business of building businesses. And that's why we coined the motto at Roswell that we are in the business of building businesses. The foundation starts from there. When you approach it with a brand, if you're just approaching it from, okay, this is a dev project that I'm going to go in and revamp the product detail page based on some key factors and KPIs that you're looking at, you're really approaching it from a tunnel vision standpoint. And the brand is going to look at that for you and say, okay, well, this is done. Thank you. See you later. And you move on. And that's not good for your business. It's not good for the relationship. It's not good for the longevity of what you're trying to create. So understanding that you're in the business of building businesses is really the core concept of what we've been able to do over at Roswell. And we've been able to do that successfully. There's about 70 brands we're working with right now. You can see some of the big ones on here. A&E, we just ended up doing email design for them. Botchins, it's one of the most prominent barbecue sauces all over. There was a Forbes article about them recently. We started working with them when they were sub $1 million on Squarespace. Moved on to get them over to Shopify. We worked on their retention strategy. We built the loyalty program that was based on the Karate Kid concept and a few other things. And so that land and expand strategy is really what is powerful for an agency in order to approach that full service e-commerce agency approach. You see Brixton over here. All we do for Brixton right now is growth marketing. We did a little bit of development. They came to us initially for growth marketing, and we ended up expanding more towards design and development. Bully Bunches came to us initially for a loyalty program, and then we started doing email marketing, and then we started doing SMS marketing, and then we started doing development. We revamped their entire site. We're making recommendations to different platforms. We ended up partnering with an SEO and paid firm before we started doing it ourselves, and they became one of our first full service clients. And why is that important? The concept that we're going to talk about today is predictable revenue generation by diversification of your services, while at the same time understanding that you can land and expand and create a sticky experience with your brands. Not looking at it from just here's what I'm going to do, but here's everything that I can do, and approaching it from the second you take that discovery call to understand what is their challenge and then address that challenge, but slowly insert yourself into other opportunities that would allow you to do, for example, email marketing and segmentation, advanced segmentation using platforms like Arita, and understanding how everything in the room, everything in the ecosystem fits together so that you're able to provide a solution to the brand that is all encompassing and really fulfills that message, that mission rather, that you're in the business of building businesses. So my journey. Let's talk a little bit about that. I don't love that picture, but it is what it is. I started out as an intern in the music business back in 2001. Worked there as an intern, making about $800 a month. I remember correctly, I was bartending on the weekends to make ends meet. It was my passion. It's what I wanted to do. I moved to New York in 2003, ended up working at Bad Boy. We'll have comments about that later. But I was there for about 4 years and ended up over at Republic, which is a division of Universal. And I saw a lot of things that were happening, similar to what's happening with AI today. But the music business missed the mark on three different moments in my life. Number one, they tried to, I don't know how old people are in this room, but I'm a little bit older than most. They tried to sue teenagers in Nebraska or in Kansas instead of trying to monetize instead of trying to monetize Napster. That's silly. Fast forward about 2 years later, Steve Jobs comes to New York and says, "Hey, I want to sell this thing called the iPod. All I want you to do is create a digital music store." Music business laughs and says, "Hey, Steve, that's great. We're going to sell CDs till the cows come home." And Steve's probably, in my mind, I wasn't there, so in my mind, he probably says to him, "You know what I do, right? You know I could just do this myself." And so he does. And in 2003, iTunes launches, and for the next decade, the music business ends up paying 30 cents on the dollar to Apple. Nuts, right? 2010, 2011, fast forward, iTunes was everything, and the streaming revolution comes along. You have your Pandora, you have your Spotify, you have all of that was coming out. And again, the music business just was focused on publishing their money and so on and so forth, instead of putting together their own platform. So bringing it full circle, I realized that this was not the place I needed to be, because if you're in an industry where the thought leaders and the people that are sitting in ivory chairs or whatever the case may be are not forward thinking, the entire industry is going to get left behind, and you as an individual and the company you're working with are going to get left behind. And that's going to come to the climax of what I want to talk about today. So in 2014, I decided to pivot. It was enough was enough. I ended up trying to get jobs over at Spotify. Some of you guys in the audience who know me very well have heard this story. I couldn't get a job to save my life. I couldn't even get an interview. My best friend, Hugh Lim, who's the founder and CEO of Roswell, he ended up, I was the best man at his wedding. His wife's bridesmaid was a recruiter at Spotify. And I asked her, "Hey, Jenny, how come I'm not even getting a single phone call or an interview, anything, right?" And she said, "Nihar, you have a great resume if you want to work in music. But this isn't a music company. It's a tech company." And my head exploded. I started panicking. I started having all kinds of anxiety. And she said to me, "Nihar, just relax. Listen. Why don't you contact Hugh? He's got this development shop that he just started called Roswell Studios. And you can work with him for 3 to 6 months and then come back and reapply." Great. That was my intention. I was going to go work at Roswell for about 6 months, but 11 years later, here I am. And so the art of the pivot wasn't easy. I mean, I really tried to rewire my brain from the way the music business worked into the way the tech industry worked. Had to change the way I talked, the way I was in business, the way I dressed, and things like that, because it's just an entirely different mindset. And you kind of have to be a chameleon when you work in business development, when you work in any sort of industry. Taught myself to code. I'm not a developer. What would take me probably a week would take a developer a half hour. Now with AI, probably 4 seconds. But I wanted to really immerse myself in what was going on with this industry. So at this time, it's 4 people, 4 developers in a room that's probably the size of this stage, and me. I saw Shopify go public in 2015. I went to a talk where Keir Whitaker, who's here somewhere, was at General Assembly, and I saw that Shopify was expanding their partner program, and I saw that them going public. I realized that there was a niche potential, or a niche, I guess that's how you say it out here in Canada, a niche potential that instead of being one out of a trillion dev shops, we could be one of an elite e-commerce agency that does killer development. And that was the first strategic move we made. We started focusing on development as it related to e-commerce, everything related to Liquid, and we stayed on the cutting edge of everything as it related to Shopify and the growth of e-commerce as it related to development. And from there, we ended up building the first, in my opinion, full service e-commerce agency by a strategic move that incorporated a number of different elements. So we started with development. Engineering is where it all began. We started doing Shopify theme development, moved into all aspects of systems integration, everything you would possibly want to do. And of course, part and parcel of that, we ended up starting to do design, UI UX design. You can't have development without design. But it was always a strategic, holistic approach, understanding what is your challenge. Okay, you're not just coming to me because you want a variant customizer on the PDP page, but what about your homepage and your landing pages? They're not converting properly. Looking at the analytics, expanding beyond just understanding that I'm going to solve this problem and I'm going to solve all your problems. And that's really what drove Roswell's growth. We have about 50 team members at Roswell now, grew from 5, so that's 10x, with about 70 brands, as I mentioned, focused on creative, engineering, and now growth marketing services. So how did we make that transition into growth marketing? A lot of you are probably asking, because it's not easy. I mean, when you're tooled in a certain way with developers, with project managers, account managers, QA, and so on and so forth, how do you change that mindset so that you can start doing growth marketing? Well, we started doing integrations with Klaviyo. We became a Klaviyo partner when they were 25 people. They're a publicly owned company now. This is back in 2016. Did we have the advantage of being the first mover at that time and being in the right place at the right time? Maybe, but I think luck favors the prepared, and we were prepared to do so. So we were doing these Klaviyo integrations where we were, setting up the integrations for people to sign up for their email lists and so on and so forth. We were integrating loyalty platforms, be it Smile, be it Loyalty Line, Yotpo, and so on and so forth. And I said to myself, well, instead of just integrating, why don't we set up the fundamentals for them? The welcome series, the abandoned checkout series, the win-back series, the loyalty tiering, and so on and so forth. And we started strategically hiring for individuals that could fulfill that. James Roberts being one of them. He's our head of business development and strategy, but came from the brand side. And I figured to myself, who else better to hire for business development than somebody who's been pitched to his entire life? So we ended up putting packages together after we were able to master that in terms of being able to do welcome series and all the other flows that we talked about, putting together standalone loyalty marketing packages and the like. And that really helped us to master and understand. And at the time, our growth marketing department, which is headed by Emily Roberts, VP of growth marketing, she was the growth marketing, retention marketing department at the time. And now I think it's about 13, 14 people at Roswell. We ended up slowly expanding our footprint with that land and expand strategy. When you're able to sell to a brand, and when I say the word sell, you're really selling value. You're not selling a product or a service. You're presenting your value as an agency. And I think that's been one of the strategic advantages of Roswell, is that we've been able to go in and understand the challenge, understand the problem, but then deliver value. And from there, we ended up creating full growth marketing, full lifecycle marketing services, everything from performance marketing to SEO, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, social media marketing, to mid-funnel strategies inclusive of email, SMS, loyalty, reviews, customer service, the routine economy with subscription and membership commerce, and more. Understanding that Roswell was built on the fundamentals and the bedrock of partnerships. That's something you as an agency have to understand, is that if you have a relationship with Klaviyo, if you have a partnership with Cleverific, if you have a partnership with Arita or any of the platforms, with Reviews.io, with all the Clearer brands and everything, is that, yeah, that's great if you refer a brand to them. But if you can actually engage with them in a managed services aspect, you're creating a sticky environment for you, the partner, and as well as the brand. And that's really important. And that's kind of what drove Roswell to become a full service e-commerce agency. Being able to land and expand is, I can't tell you how valuable that is. It's so critical in order to be able to grow your agency. Some of the things I'd like to talk about essentially is the diversification imperative. As an agency, everybody tries to target as much MRR as you can. 75% is really the target for monthly recurring revenue that you have to have. Because if when you get to a certain level of scale, Roswell's 50 people, if you're looking for $200,000 or more every month in new revenue, it's not an easy path. It's not that it's impossible. It's just an incredible amount of stress, and you kind of have to say yes to everything. And that's the challenge as an agency, is that if you're forced to say yes to everything, you're going to be in a position where you're going to get a lot of stinkers. If you're depending 100% of your referrals are coming from your partners, that's also a dangerous place to be in, because they're not always going to have brands to send your way. So understanding your diversification strategy and also moving more towards a retainer model is critical. You have stability against market fluctuations. You have resilience against the current disruption of AI, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, and how that's going to help you build your full service e-commerce agency. And most importantly, a predictable cash flow for growth. You really want to be at 75% recurring revenue, but how do you do that as a full service e-commerce agency? Well, at Roswell, marketing services tend to be 90 to 95% recurring revenue. That's huge. Now, that is about 40% of the business at Roswell. Whereas dev and design, if you're doing 70% recurring revenue, and we've done that in certain periods, that's great. But there are going to be ebbs and flows where you're dipping down to 50% and so on and so forth. And your growth marketing services is what's going to allow you to be able to shore up that cash flow, shore up that revenue, so that you can make it through the lulls and the ups and downs and the periods where one side of the business may not necessarily be performing, but the other side is. It's important because everybody understands diversification, also market trends. How many people here are, would you think, sorry, how many, by show of hands, how many brands do you think are firing and hiring a new growth marketing agency in Q4, Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Exactly. And so you're probably going to be signing a lot of design and development deals then, because the Q1 and the following year budgets are opening up. And so you're really focusing Q4 on design and development deals and all the tech platforms in the building. That's really what agencies are looking at. Whereas Q1, there is a massive parade of firings and churn of growth marketing agencies, because some failed miserably, some did well. And so in Q1, you're going to see a lot of growth marketing deals come to fruition. Q2, you start seeing a little bit more of both. Q3 is a little bit of a toss-up, and then Q4, the cycle starts all over again. But understanding that cycle in the market is how you can also help strategize to be able to build a full-service marketing agency. But now, with the advent of AI. I mean, the last 2 weeks, I mean, it's been a whirlwind, especially at Roswell. I'm sure for a lot of your agencies as well. MCP, hands in the air if anybody's heard of MCP, Model Contracts Protocol. All right, that'll save me a lot of time. So as you understand, beforehand, you have an AI tool, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. If you're not using them, you're going to get left behind. But what is important to understand, that MCP, for those of you that don't know that, it's basically a way that an AI tool can interact with the system and perform an action. So if you are saying, hey, I got this scope of work, dump it into Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, it outputs code. The next step you would normally have to do is basically talk to a developer or an engineer and implement and put that code into place, which takes a little bit of time. Now imagine if an AI tool could just actually talk to Shopify, could talk to Klaviyo, and make that happen for you. You're taking the amount of time that it would take overall and condensing that and really delivering time to value. And that's really how this all works and why it's important. So how does that relate to a full-service e-commerce agency? Well, direct integration. AI is going to be interacting with platforms natively. If you're not experiencing that now, you're going to see it. It's going to explode in the next couple of weeks and months. Project planning, AI-driven execution strategies. We talked about direct Shopify updates. Hands in the air if anybody's heard of vibe coding in the last 2 weeks. I think that's the worst phrase ever. I think it's the cheesiest thing on the planet, but it's where we're at until someone comes up with a new thing. And I invite you, after when we're having drinks tonight, if someone can come up with the best phrase to replace vibe coding, I will be very impressed, because if I don't hear that again, I'd be very happy. But the key impact here is traditional dev time, and I want to extrapolate that further. Traditional time to value for anything that you do, whether it's email copy, whether it's creating a strategic approach to a paid marketing strategy, SEO, technical SEO, or a loyalty program. You can reduce the time it takes to value in a dramatic sense with everything that you're doing with AI. the AI opportunity window as it relates to what we're doing now. So if you're looking to be able to create a full service e-commerce agency, you don't know anything about paid ads, you don't know anything about SEO. Well, the first thing you need to do is learn. You need to dig in. And of course, that seems obvious. Dig into all the chat platforms, understand what you need to do, and also start looking within your circle of influence on individuals that you can potentially subcontract out to come in and support you. We didn't start doing paid ads and SEO at Roswell ourselves. We partnered with an agency. We white labeled them for a little bit. But then we were able to demonstrate and understand how we can deliver value for our brands. And then we ended up bringing it in-house. And that's really the step. I'm not saying that you should go out today and start your own email marketing agency. It's not easy. Full stop. It's not easy to start performance marketing, but you can start slowly with the brands that you have. The brands that you have in your roster are your ultimate source of business development because they trust you for design and development. Why not? Why wouldn't they trust you for email marketing if you're able to show them value? And you're charging them at a much lower rate than most of the market can do. But at the time, they're willing to give you that chance. And that's really how you start. And then leveraging AI tools to be able to create speed advantages, efficiency gains, and market differentiation is really what's going to help you grow that aspect of your business. You're going to, right now is the prime opportunity for agencies, especially with the adoption of AI. It's going to be ubiquitous in the near future. And what's that going to do? Well, if there's 18 agencies in the room, maybe 30, and there's only 3 of them that are adopting AI. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that for example's sake, right? Well, the 3 that have that are going to be able to do 4 to 5 to 10x the work in the same amount of time with the same amount of people. And agencies out here, if you don't know what gross profit margin is versus net income, then we should talk. But you want to maximize your gross profit margin by being able to do more with the team that you have. And so if 3 agencies are doing that, they're going to be able to bill for value. That's the most important thing. When I said earlier, you're not selling to a brand, you are presenting value. And if you're presenting a value that is of a certain market price and value, you can charge for that value. So ultimately, if you have 3 agencies doing that and you multiply that by 30, what's going to happen? Well, everybody's going to start undercutting each other because they understand how to do that. Once the cat's out of the bag, the prices are going to come down overall in our industry. So the time to be able to capitalize on that arbitrage of AI enablement is now. At risk of giving away our secrets at Roswell, I mean, this is a no-brainer, but it's what I wanted to talk about today because it's important. I believe in rising tides lift all boats, each one teach one, and I think that all of the agencies in this room that are here for a reason to learn. And I was honored to be able to speak today when I had the conversation with Blair, and I thought I'd share this with you all today. Finally, the winning strategy, building for value, not time. Take time out of the equation because that's one thing that as an agency, your currency, your product, your service is your time. And every second matters. And if you're not thinking from that standpoint, you need to shift your mindset or go to a different industry, sorry to say. But that is really important to understand is that you're building for value, not for time. Because when you build for value and you're able to create more value within the same amount of time, you're going to be able to bill more. You have to innovate continuously to maintain edge. I get up every morning. First thing I do is start reading the AI blogs and understanding what's out there. It's going to come at you like a fire hose right now, but you got to be willing to drink. You got to be able to understand because ultimately, if you don't understand and absorb everything that's happening, you're going to get left behind. Diversifying services for resilience. It's really important, especially again with the advent of AI and MCP, is being able to understand that when you diversify your service offerings, you are creating sticky opportunities with your brands, land and expand, and you're going to be able to grow your agency that much further. Design development may be the starting point, but moving into growth marketing and bringing that all together is powerful. We have a loyalty team at Roswell. We have a paid team at Roswell. We have an SEO team at Roswell. We have email and SMS, along with design, creative, and photography and videography, and then, of course, development. But they're not all islands. And one of the most challenging things at Roswell that we've had to do is understand how we bring that collection of islands into one massive country, and that's what we're still working towards. But it's been a challenge. And once you understand that you're not creating an archipelago, I think archipelago. archipelago of islands that work together in a loose construct, but you're actually putting together a country, you're going to be a lot more efficient, especially using AI. And again, embrace AI early while the advantage exists. I'm going to open up to questions right now. If anybody would like to learn more on how Roswell was able to build a full service e-commerce agency, it wasn't easy. We've been doing this for over a decade right now. Be happy to talk to you about it. I'm not selfish with my knowledge. And I appreciate you guys listening to me today, and I'm going to open it up for any questions. Thank you.